Hey everybody, it is Quicken and welcome back to another episode of The X-Files. So, a pre-warning before we start this episode. As you guys know, X-Files is just my series all about dating failures that I have experienced in my life. And very quickly, I just want to say, please do not go out of your way to witch hunt these gentlemen. They are in my past for a reason, and I share these stories with you just so we can have a little bit of fun, not so we can start ruining my life. So, no witch hunting. This episode kind of starts a while back. Didn't have a ton of experience with gentlemen throughout my life. I have said it before, I kind of experienced a little bit of ugly duckling syndrome. And in high school, I had like a shaved head and crooked teeth and all of this, didn't know how to dress. I didn't have a ton of experience with the men. I did have like one kind of boyfriend in high school, and my high school boyfriend, wow, that relationship really kind of taught me how I wanted to be treated in life and like what wasn't okay. Kind of have to go through one of these relationships to figure out how we want to be treated in life and like what isn't okay. So I can kind of look back at all this stuff and be like, hey, can't believe that happened. That was stupid. We really like the band Chiodos. I'm not kidding. And I remember Chiodos was coming to play, and I probably hit him up on Instant Messenger, and I was like, we should go to Chiodos, we should go to Chiodos. And he was like, oh, okay, like, I'll go if you buy the tickets. And I remember, like, I had a job at McDonald's, like, I was a working girl. So I was like, yeah, I'll buy the tickets to Chiodos. But I remember you needed a debit card to buy them on the internet, and I was like, what, 16? So I remember I had to ask my parents, I had to beg my parents, like, please, can I buy these Chiodos tickets with your debit card? Please, please, here's the money, please, can I do it? And I remember I was so worried that they were gonna sell out. I was like ready on the internet to buy them. I bought 2 tickets and they sold out. I'm getting ready, I'm straightening my hair, I'm looking really good, and I'm like, hey, what time should we get ready to go to Chiodos? And he was like, you bought my brother a ticket, right? And I was like, no, you didn't ask me to. He's like, well, my brother's not gonna drive us if he can't come. I was like, can we like throw him $10? Like, he had an older brother. And he was like, no, I just know for a fact that he won't do that. Like, if you want to ask him, like, go ahead, you can ask him, but I'm not going to ask him because I already know he's going to say no. I was like, I don't live, what's his phone number? I don't live with him, I don't know. And I didn't have a cell phone yet either. So I remember I had those tickets, and back then tickets used to come in the mail. They weren't like on your phone or anything. They came in an envelope in the mail. And I remember I just had them, and I cried and I cried, and just nothing ever happened. And then the next time I saw him, I like wasn't brave enough to be like, that was shitty. Like, why didn't you just fucking ask your brother, ask your mom? Like, why didn't you do that? And I didn't have the arrangements for my own parents to take me to the show. It was kind of all under the understanding that if I bought the tickets, he would figure out how we would get there. So that was like the first major thing. He didn't want to go to prom with me. He was like, hey, I'm gonna like ask this other girl, like, it's just funny, like, I'm just asking her like as a joke. And I was like, okay, like, I have a sense of humor. Okay, yeah, prom is like whatever anyway. Like, why would that doesn't matter to me. It was so weird because it made me start like hating this other girl, and she was even a grade younger than me. And I remember thinking like, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not cool enough, my name isn't unique. Like, why is he asking her what's her SAT score? So I remember I used to eat lunch with this kid every day, and I remember I actually asked him to go to prom with me, and he said yes, and that was super cool. And I remember that's like one of the highlights of my entire high school career was our prom together. and I got like this dark plaid dress from like Delia's catalog. Oh my god, I had so much fun at prom. And he came to my house and picked me up, and we got pictures. And the funny thing was, the other dude, the girl had eventually said no, because I guess she thought he was trying to be funny. And then when prom came, she was like, I'm not really going with you. I'm gonna like collect seashells or something. I'm super unique. So, sorry. That's not my fault. I actually never even went to prom, and I actually went to prom and had a really good time. I think at that point, it was kind of known that like, I don't know. I bet looking back on high school, people probably like, oh, I know Amanda, she was dating that one kid. But all along, it kind of felt like we weren't really dating at all. Like, little things like that would always happen. So when we graduated, oh my god. So when we graduated, my grandmom got him a chocolate medal, like a congratulations chocolate medal, like as a joke. And I remember he put it on, and he got like photographed, and I was like, that is chocolate. I did his homework. I did it. That's chocolate. Oh my god. So I remember we went on senior week, and if you're not familiar with senior week, I don't know if this is like an American tradition or my high school's tradition for rich kids, but senior week is kind of like, I know some people like after prom they like go to the beach, or like after prom they like do something. At our high school, after graduation, the week, like you graduate that night, and I think like your bags are packed and you like go on vacation. And I was just under the impression that I wouldn't go on senior week. Like there were like super high up like rich kids in my grade who had senior week booked like January, February. And I just figured it was because they had older siblings who went on senior week. I didn't even know about it until I was left out. So I was like, okay, why did you should have just not even told me about senior week. Where are you going on senior week? I'm going to Virginia Beach. So I was in band all through school, all through my whole life. So I was in band, marching band and stuff with the same people for years and years. And we all really got along. And we were kind of all talking about senior week because we were nerds, I guess. And the kid I guess I was dating happened to like have a beach house. And I was like, why do you have a beach house? It's weird. So he was like, yeah, like we could go to senior week there if you want. So I was like, oh my god, cool. I didn't think I was gonna go on senior week. But I didn't really have any friends, so I invited kids from the band, and they had like boyfriends and connections and cars and things like that, so I figured it would be a really fun time. Like, we had hung out before. Obviously, we hung out for years. So, and then, I mean, I was underage, so we actually had to get beer, and I remember he was like, I'm not asking my brother, you ask my brother. I was like, why don't I just fucking date your brother? Alright, I'm talking to him way more than I'm talking to you, apparently. So I had to pay for his brother to get us beer, like give him money for the beer and then pay him for the beer. That sucked. By the time we got to the beach house, I was so tired. Like, I drove, I was so tired. We had all the beer and whatever, and I was like, okay, let's like divvy it up, and then I want to get like a good night's sleep, and then tomorrow night, like tomorrow during the day we'll go swimming, we'll do all the cool stuff, look around this house, beach stuff, beer stuff, cookout stuff. I was like, for this tonight, I just want to go to sleep. I didn't really care that that wasn't like the common consensus. I wasn't like, and all of you are going to sleep too. I was just like, hey, like I'm tired, like I'm calling it a night. Not only were my portion of the beer was gone, but the next day we're all like kind of having breakfast together, and he's smoking a cigarette. And I was like, wait, he doesn't smoke, that's weird. But I was also like, okay, maybe he's like, he graduated school, now like he has a personality or something, I don't know. But like the other girls from the band kind of smoked, and their boyfriends smoked. So I was like, is this dude being influenced? But I was also like, oh my god, everybody fucking hates me. Somebody drank my beer last night. Like, nobody pitched in. Like, I feel like this is all so weird. So, summer kind of came to an end, and I was already moving to Texas for school. You know, we would talk, but I kind of just, you know, kind of always felt like he definitely didn't like me that much. And I would try really hard, like, do you want to go to Perkins? Like, I remember one time I slept over his house and he woke me up early the next morning and he's like, can you leave? And I was like, do you need me to get something? And he was like, no, can you go somewhere else? You gotta go. I also played like a ton of Call of Duty all the time. He was like a video game kid, and I would kind of just like sit there politely like, he'll look over here soon. I never really had anywhere to go, so my options were pretty limited. Like, I didn't really have a house to be at or like a ton of other friends. I didn't have my own car, I just had a driver's license, so at least I had somewhere to be. When I moved to Texas, I would hear from him. I remember one night he texted me and he was like, oh, at this point I had a cell phone. So it was like a purple. He texted me one night. It was this whole long thing because he was like, hey, like, I see you on MySpace and like this guy's always liking your pictures and all this stuff, and like I know that you like him back, and I think you should just finally tell me that you like him back and that you cheated on me. And I was like, I never cheated on you. And he was like, if you tell me when you cheated on me, I'll tell you when I cheated on you. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I cheated on you. When did you cheat on me? He was like, during senior week. I thought you knew. And I was like, no. And he was like, no one told you? And I was like, no. And there were like 5 other people there. No one took me aside, gave me a little shoulder, and was like, Amanda, you know that cigarette in his mouth? Well, it came from her mouth. You know what I mean? So I was like, whoa, buddy. I couldn't believe it. And not only like, I felt like really weird, suspicious vibes that whole like weekend we were there and all of that stuff, and I could tell like he wasn't into me like all summer after that. Like, I had just watched Grave of Fireflies and I remember calling him and being like, everybody's dead. And he's like, yeah, I know, headshot. So all of that aside, like all these red flags, and I guess I always knew that something weird happened during senior week. He's not that cute. I was like, all right, this is over. So it's not like I went hitting the clubs when I was in Texas. I was in the band there too, and the other kid in the clarinet section and I were pretty cool. And I remember I always thought that the drummer was like a total babe. And I remember one day I was talking to like second chair clarinet and I was like, oh man, Alejandro is so gorgeous. And he was like, Alejandro only likes wasps. It's like, what's wasp? And he said, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. I was like, oh, sorry, none of the above. So I probably lived in Texas for like 6 months, and in that time, you just like dreamed of Alejandro, and nothing really ever happened for me there. You guys might know that. I totally moved back. I call it culture shock. I just like really didn't get along there. Nothing really went my way. I remember I had made the arrangements to move back to Pennsylvania, move in with my friend's sister, whatever. I had my car shipped to PA, and it was like 2 days before, it was like 12 hours before I was about to fly home. And the band had a little party, and I remember it was like at our band director's house, but it was a nice house, so it wasn't so weird. And we were all together, and I was with second clarinet, and I was like, ugh, my final night, I just want to say goodbye, Alejandro. And I did need a ride home that night, so I was like, do you live like this way? He was like, Yeah. I was like, could you give me a ride home? My septum's pierced. And I remember I died. I had to like go to the bathroom and like freak out. Oh my god, do I have pictures of Alejandro and I can't post them. No witch hunting. I'll just look them up for myself. So I remember Alejandro drove me home and I was like, well, goodbye, back to Pennsylvania for me and my wicked ways of being alternative. And Alejandro was like, you're cute. And I remember we kissed and I was like, damn it. I shouldn't have taken second clarinet's advice on being a wasp. He wasn't into it. And then Lady Gaga wrote that song about Alejandro, no one believed me. We didn't keep in contact. It was just something beautiful that happened once. So I came back to Pennsylvania, a brand new woman, kissed by Alejandro himself. I remember dude hit me up and he was like, oh, are you back in PA? And I was like, yeah, I live on my own now and I'm super cool and I have a Monte Carlo. That's a car. And he was like, okay, do you like want to pick me up? So I got settled and I went and I did pick him up. I was like, well, old habits die hard. Maybe I'm like super cool now, super confident babe. Like Alejandro touched my shoulder, like I can do anything. Went to pick him up and I think we like went to a diner, something like really casual, and I like talked about myself. It wasn't like a super flirting dinner. There wasn't like a ton of static animosity. It was pretty neutral. I mean, I was moving back to this town where I went to high school. I kind of felt like I needed to be filled in a little bit, at least have, like if he wanted to be friends, like, I know I sound so pathetic, I so do, but sometimes the people you grow up with are the hardest people to turn away. And then I went to drop him off at his house. He didn't invite me in, nothing like that, and you know, it was kind of cool. It was kind of neutral. I had this nice cool car, I was independent, had a place to finally be, and I didn't need him for anything. Maybe he kind of felt that. Deja Entendu'd CD in the fucking CD player, cause my car had a system. I went to drop him off at his mom's house, said goodnight to him, and drove home. I pulled up at my like new place I was staying, and I noticed that his cell phone was in the passenger seat in the car. And this was so many X years ago. Our cell phones weren't really as important to us then. Like, you mostly had them to receive phone calls. And I made the executive's decision. I was like, this dude isn't winning a popularity contest. So I took his phone and I called his house phone, and his mom picked up. He was probably in the basement playing video games or he was asleep. His mom picked up and I was like, hey, blah 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 left his cell phone in my car. Is it okay if I drop it off in the morning? And she was like, yeah, totally, I'll let him know. I open up my computer, whatever, I guess sign on AIM or Skype or whatever messaging service that I was on, probably AIM, whatever. Sign on, and he's on too. And he messages me. And he's like, you have my cell phone. And I was like, yeah, it's no big deal. Like, I called your mom and told her I was gonna put it in the mail slot tomorrow morning, like on my way to school. And he was like, no, I need it. And I was like, I'm not gonna go through it. I don't care. I'm just already in bed and I already drove home. No offense, you left it in my car and I'm being nice enough to put it in the mail slot tomorrow morning. And he was like, if you don't come and drop off my phone, something really bad is gonna happen. I was like half asleep, like still thinking about Alejandro, and I was like, what's the worst this kid could fucking do to me that he hasn't already done for the last 5 years? I was like, I'm better than him now. I'm so much better than him. I'm so much more happy. I'm finally like without him, and all the things he ever gave me, I do not need. I do not need his beach house. I do not need to sit in his fucking basement just because I'm not allowed home. Like, I don't need anything. I don't need to eat fucking Hot Pockets ever again. Go kiss whoever you want. Smoke cigarettes. Go ahead. So I was like, hey, listen. Alright, don't be like this. You'll have your phone in less than 9 hours. I just want to go to sleep before school in the morning. And he was like, you asked for this. And I was like, that's cryptic. I don't know what that means. So I went to sign on my Zanga. And if you just watch the X-Files, you don't watch the rest of my channel. My Zanga is the first Quicken that ever was Quicken. It was my blog, the very first Quicken blog, and it meant everything to me. I documented everything on there, all of my original poetry, all of my writings. I started my Zanga in 2004, so I had that thing for years. It meant everything to me. When he said, "You'll be sorry," he logged on to my Zanga and he deleted it. It was gone. And back then, I feel like you didn't need like an email address to log into websites and stuff. You had a username and a password. And I never thought anyone would ever use that information for evil. I probably had logged on to his house computer once before and never logged back out. Like maybe he always knew my password. Like maybe it was the password for something else that I had lent him. So he deleted it. And I remember I was so overwhelmed with just like, I didn't know why. I didn't know why. It was my life's work. It was everything I had ever felt, every conclusion I'd ever come to, every misunderstanding about puberty. And I mentioned in a video kind of previously that there was a girl in my science class in high school who read Quicken, who read my blog. Like, it was the only thing I ever had, the only thing I had ever tangibly created that meant something and existed somewhere. It was all gone. All of it. All of my writing about breakups and feelings and moving and my parents kicking me out, living in Texas, documenting all of that was gone. He deleted it. And, you know, I've been cheated on, I've been broken up with, I've felt all of those things before, but nothing to this day has hurt me as much as someone deleting my blog. It sounds so stupid. He deleted it. It was gone. I didn't break his cell phone. I didn't do anything like that. I waited the next day, like I said. I put the phone in the mail slot, like I said. And I thought, I'll just be the bigger person. He deleted my entire existence. I don't exist. It was gone. But I was like, hey, if there was any indication that I was gonna come back from Texas and be with this kid all over again, that's gone. That's never happening again. I never, ever, ever got back with him. I can't tell you how much hate I felt after that. And I hated myself for the longest time too, because I was like, I can't believe for years I didn't pick up on these like obvious red flags, thinking that I was cheating on him, and then he just wanted to tell me he cheated on me to hurt me, the Chiodos tickets, the brother, all of that stuff. I always had to give his brother gas money too. Like, just drive us somewhere. Just drive us. Don't offer him gas money. Maybe he wants to drive us. Prick. After a couple years went by, we didn't have a washer and dryer, and I remember his parents always really liked me, and they let me do my laundry at his house sometimes, and I remember like thinking like, this is my revenge. My sheets are clean. But he had moved away, and it just felt like it was okay to me, and I felt like any shred of success I ever gained was kind of like my little, like, at least I still have this. At least I have a little kiss from Alejandro. And that's where my Tumblr came from. My Tumblr was eventually supposed to be like a dedication to my Zanga. Obviously my Zanga was dead. So painfully. But then my Tumblr actually became something that was really interactive and a lot more of a social platform than Zanga was, where someone would have to know your Zanga information in order to find it. Whereas Tumblr is a little bit like that, but there's also room to develop and grow on Tumblr, where I met a lot of my friends, all of my friends, and where Quicken actually really became to thrive and become like a really identifying thing. So, I don't hate this guy. Obviously, I would never spend more than 4 fucking minutes with him ever again. Like, that was fucked up to do to somebody. I think that it is like, obviously social sabotage. This isn't like a super happy ending for X-Files, but for me, he was just a guy in our relationship, had aspects that were easy and they were familiar, and I was like, oh, everyone's always with their high school sweetheart. What am I doing wrong? I have to stay with my high school sweetheart. We dated in high school, and even though we didn't go to prom together, and he just kissed other girls from the band during senior week, he's my high school sweetheart. He saw my armpit hair grow. This is the X-Files. Sorry if this bummed you out, but I swear there's a happy ending in there somewhere. I love you guys. I love you, Alejandro. And until next time, bye. Hey everybody, it's Quicken and welcome back to another episode of The X-Files. The X-Files is my series all about dating fails.